All right, today we are going to be talking about adverbs. So adverbs play an important role in parts of speech. Adverbs describe the manner, place, or time of an action. Basically, adverbs tell you when, where, or how something is done. So, where are adverbs formed from? Commonly, adverbs are formed from adjectives. Not always, but most common. So here's some adjectives that we can look at. So if we look at this side of the screen, here's our adjectives. We have kind. The adverb becomes kindly. We have happy. The adverb becomes happily. Wonderful becomes wonderfully. Loud becomes loudly. Sad, sadly. Beautiful, adjective. Beautifully is an adverb. Sweet is the adjective. And then sweetly is the adverb. So let's see what we can figure out, what's happening here between our adjectives and our adverbs. So let's look at another example of how an adjective becomes an adverb. What suffix is used when we look at our blue screen? And can we see the pattern? So let's look. Most adjectives are formed by adding ly to the adjective. We noticed that in our previous screen. So let's look at this. See it, look at our adjectives here. And what are we adding here? Okay. So sad is the adjective. We add our ly and it becomes an adverb. Easy is the adjective because it shows how. And it explains what that adjective is. So if something was done easy. But when it's how, it's easily done, and that's where our adverb comes in. Bold becomes boldly, courageous becomes courageously. What pattern do you see? What suffix is used? So look at our ly here, and then look at the pattern here. Let's move on. So, many adverbs do end in ly. You make an adverb by adding ly to the adjective. Not always, but many. Here's some things that we have to pay attention to, so be careful. Some words that end in ly are not adverbs, and some adjectives end in ly too. So I don't want you to see the pattern and just automatically assume that you see that ly and it's going to be an adverb. So let's look at some of the examples. She was feeling very lonely. So that's the adjective. She was wearing a lovely dress. That's the adjective. The party was lively. That's the adjective. Where is our adverb in this? Now, if we look at that, those are all adjectives. They're telling you how and explaining, describing the feeling, describing the dress, describing the party. But it's not an adverb. So although they end in ly, they are describing the noun, which makes it an adjective. An adverb is a little different. An adverb, we said, describes the manner, the place, or time of an action. And basically, adverbs tell you when, where, how something is done. But when it's describing a noun, that is an adjective. So let's look at this. Let's take note. Some adverbs don't end in ly. That's interesting. Words like almost, enough, so, to, and very. So here's the example. I am almost done. Almost is the adverb. It's not describing the noun. It's telling a frequency. Or she is very quiet. Or there is enough cake for everyone. These are all adverbs, and they don't end in that ly pattern. So it's really important that you really look at thoroughly to decide whether it's an adjective or an adverb. Although ly is a good indicator it is an adverb, we need to follow the rules of adverbs. So when you see a word with the ly, you have to think that that's an indicator that it's possible that it's an adverb, but not always an adverb. So let's look at our rules. So here's the kinds of adverbs. We have a few. Manner, it describes which manner an action is done. So here's an example. The plane landed safely. Manner. This is how the plane landed. It landed safely. So that's adverbs of manner. Place. It describes where an action is done. So I've lived here for 2 years. Here is the adverb. It shows place. Time. It describes when an action is done. When. So here's an example. The train has already left. That is adverb of time. Frequency, how often something happens. So it shows how many times an action is done. I'll never do that again. That shows frequency. Adverbs of reason or purpose. It describes the purpose or reason the action is taken. So he therefore left school. That was his reason. He left school. Adverb of quantity or degree. It shows how much or in what degree or to what extent. He was too careless. So even the word too. And if we look at here, our pattern that we looked before, when we talked about before, not every single one ends in ly. But ly is an indicator. Here's our last one, affirmation or negation, which means like positive or no. Which says yes if it is yes, and no if it is no. So these are like definite answers. Definite positive yes, definite negative no. Surely you are mistaken. So this is a negation. It is absolutely no. All right, so here's our different kinds of adverbs. Okay, let's move on. As you will see, adverbs often tell when, why, or under what conditions something happens or happened, most of the time. So today we're going to focus on adverb of manners only, okay, in which manner an action is done. So he watched carefully. She answered correctly. The plane landed safely. These are all adjectives of manner. If we look at our first, very top one here, okay? And we'll be revisiting the other ones in other lessons. But today we're going to focus on adverbs of manners, excuse me. All right, your turn. Let's look at some of these. So here's your multiple choice. We have 2 options. We will look at these and then we'll discuss the answers together. So my grandmother always smiled. A, cheerfully. B, yesterday. She was driving. A, around. B, carelessly. The team played. A, never together. B, wonderfully together. A tortoise walks. A, slowly. B, by. Tortoise is a turtle. Look at these and use your multiple choice and think about what we've learned. We're talking about adjectives of manner. We're focusing on adjectives of manner. All right. Here's our answers. Okay, so my grandmother always smiled cheerfully. Yes. If she smiled yesterday, I don't know if that always makes sense. We can think about yesterday, but yesterday was time. We are focusing on manner. She was driving carelessly. That's how she was driving. Car is what she was driving, and we don't have our article A. That would not make sense. The team played wonderfully together. It is how they played together. The team played never together doesn't really sound right or make sense, and never is a negation, remember? So, and then a tortoise walks slowly. A tortoise walks by could also make sense, but we are talking about adverbs of manner. How did the tortoise walk? The tortoise walked slowly. All right. Now, what's the rule? So what's the rule that we're talking about when we look at this, when it comes down to our adverbs? Here we go. So there are very few rules to remember regarding adverbs of manner. When using these adverbs, you want to just be careful not to place the adverb between the object and the verb. They often fit best after the sentence object or main verb. So let's think about this. So when we look at this, my grandmother always smiled carefully. We don't want to put that in between. My grandmother carefully smiled. That's what they're trying to tell you. It's better to have it after the object and the main verb. Grandmother and smiled is the main verb, so we're putting cheerfully after if we look at it in this our very first sentence here. We do not want to stick the word cheerfully right in between. All right, good job. So these are some of the rules to remember. Now let's try another one where you're going to fill in the blank yourself. Here we go. Now try again. So you are going to try to come up with words yourself that you believe is an adverb. She did blank on her tennis match last week. She won! Exclamation point. So that might kind of tell you, give you some clues of what best fits. Sounds like something very positive. What manner did she do on her tennis match last week? My dad used to shout blank when he was angry. She laughs blank at my jokes. Sometimes I need my teacher to talk more blank so I can understand. Let's see some possible answers. So I put some adverbs here at the bottom here that we could use, and you might have something different, which is totally okay as long as it's an adverb. So let's think. She did blank on her tennis match last week. How did she do? So I believe we are going to put our word well, and I'm sure you agree. She did well on the tennis match. If we look at my dad used to shout blank when he was angry, would he shout slowly? Would he shout happily? Or would he shout loudly? Yes, he would shout loudly. There's other words that you might be able to use in here. She laughs blank at my jokes. She laughs slowly or she laughs happily. You could have had joyfully. Someone could have joy, could be joyful, and how they would laugh would be joyfully at my joke. That would totally work too. So you can use your own adverbs, not necessarily always that. Sometimes I need my teacher to talk more blank so I can understand. And I think this is a really good one. You need your teacher to talk more slowly. So how is your teacher going to talk? Your teacher will talk slowly so you can understand. And we all have that. You know, we would like our, when someone is talking quickly or you're not understanding, you would like them to talk slowly. So you might have your own words in here that might fit also, but here are some that I felt would work. So let's recap what we learned today. Adverbs often tell when, why, or under what conditions something happens or happened. So today we focused on adverb of manners, in which manner the action is done, and there are other adverbs as well, but always remember that to be careful not to place them between the object and the verb, that they fit best after the sentence, object, or main verb. Okay, thank you.